Hmm? What do you think? Tom Penny meets girl with the earring. What's that painting? Girl with the earring? Fucking Vermeer? I used to like Vermeer. Creepy Dutch. It's out of the bath. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, this is for the Pope, I suppose, and all his many worker bees. I give great advice. He has great advice. Great advice. Donald Trump recently followed my advice. Actually, I gave Donald Trump advice on a few separate occasions, and I think because he followed my advice, as you're supposed to do in the good book, he had his near miss, because he was following my advice. You'll find that people that followed my advice or my commands, particularly, I don't want to say commands because, it's a bit, um, they seem to prosper and survive because God wants my vision and picture and things to prosper and survive. So you'll notice that agents of my will be like Knights Templar and stuff. They will have a little bit harder to like get rid of. Other than all the people who prevented me, and these are probably all the people who died from coronavirus. As James Bond exoterically tries to, the modern ones exoterically tries to explain social scenarios or global situations and events, and they kind of had it that coronavirus must have been designed by very wealthy people because it was so, um, you know, interesting, I suppose. It was specific. It could specifically kill, and it seemed to specifically kill all the richest and most powerful people in the world. And they're like, well, they must have invented it, and it got turned around and used against them or something. This whatever it was in the last one, No Time to Die. No, these are all the people that were smashing me down and destroying me and knew about me and preventing my humble advice from taking hold in the earth. You're all trying to copy my humble advice. It's not really my humble advice. Wokeism, all that wokeism crap is mimicking me. It's not taking my advice. You're just copying me. You all have to be like LGBTQ friendly and Islam friendly and people before pronouns, and you are exactly the way God made you. And if you feel bad about that, it's a really bad thing. And etc. These are all my like personal memoirs, and I wouldn't force them down anybody's throat. The fact that they're being forced down your throat actually makes me feel a bit nauseous. So and that's why when you go and woke, you go broke, because I've been destroyed and robbed and cheated. So everybody following me is going to get robbed, broken, and cheated while I'm robbed, broken, and cheated. If I was successful, it would be also successful. Well, not really, again, because it wouldn't make me happy. Copy me. Anyway, I give great advice. Yeah, I gave advice to Donald Trump back. I can't remember what it was over, and I gave him advice recently, which he followed again. Because he must have followed it in the first place, or I assume to be kind of not bulletproof, but a little more bulletproof than normal. Um, and he followed recently. I said the judicial system is basically being used as a weapon, as it has against me as well and many other people. They just use, and Puff Daddy and all, they're just using the judicial system as a weapon. They're using justice as a weapon to destroy people. And it's justice, isn't it? Because it's using the justice system, but it's blatantly defamating and destroying somebody with intent, focused on purpose, and using the justice system as a weapon, their tool to complete it. And again, it's all above board, it's all legit, and it's really, really bad. It's turning something that's supposed to be blind justice into very particular and contrived justice. It's not justice. Again, well, again, utilizing justice. Um, mhm. And he signed a bill in his big marker, which made me very happy. He was like, he listened to me. Nobody ever listens to me. Donald Trump listened to me, and he signed a bill preventing the government and judicial system from being weaponized. I said this about Boris Johnson as well, that his government was just self-defective. The entire government, the opposition party, and they were just fighting over. They're fighting over a position. They weren't there helping the people. They were there in their little, whatever, Dungeons and Dragons house, Dowling Street. Boris Johnson had a beer. Nobody cared. He was working 24/7. He was absolutely working flat out, doing the best job he could possibly do. The opposition are there to make sure he's doing the best job he could possibly do. He was doing the best job he could possibly do. He deserved a cold beer. Nobody cared that he had a cold beer. He had meetings 24/7 around people, constantly having meetings, and his brain was probably about to explode. I'd have given him 12 cold beers. I actually wanted to have t-shirts with Boris Johnson. A beer. Great kingdom for a beer. Or, I don't want to say my kingdom for a beer because it's not exactly his, but a beer, my kingdom for a beer. I thought they would have sold. You might have made a bit of kickback off that. But again, his government was, or the British government was weaponized itself. It was destroyed itself from within. It wasn't serving the purpose it was supposed to be serving. They could have been talking about a lot more important things. But again, they were I was watching the whole things when I started watching. It used to be on YouTube when they're trying to bring down Boris. All the, it's not on YouTube anymore. I don't see number 10 on YouTube anymore. The legs, I used to tune in for the legs, particularly the legs on the opposition party. Meow. Anyway, I'll give great advice. And no memory does. I can't remember the great advice I was going to give. Oh yeah, to all the cardinals and many, 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 many worker bees in the Vatican. Many, 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 so many, many, many. Okay, I often use just because I love this joke, but it's real. How many people? How many men? How many men? We'll say men because usually women are a bit more humble on these events, because they typically are men. That's why like China are always mad about having firstborn men. So I don't want to so even so, Jesus Christ could easily be any event where like a woman does these things, but typically, sorry, it doesn't have to be sexist, it is men. So women have an easier time saying he's cool than men are like, nah, you prick and begrudgery. Usually you get a lot from dealing with other men. So how many men, or how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? You've heard it before, haven't you? You've heard this. And that has a spark, so I just thought it was kind of funny. He's retired now. Giza. See, I'm kind of well genius. Giza, the Great Pyramids, is a light bulb. It's effectively a gigantic light bulb. It's a light bulb that's big enough to harvest electricity. This is where Tesla gets his things from. Tesla is technically gypsy, only supposed to mess with the sand and the stones. He's kind of messing with metals and electricity, so it's a bit. Hitler wouldn't be happy about Tesla too much. Notice that, Germany. I love Elon Musk. It's technically a big, gigantic generator, a light bulb. And it harvests electricity from the ether sphere, and it can bring it down and put it into tools and things and machines in Egypt. They put them around the world because you could build just not only, say, I'm going to get ahead of myself here. You could have a few around the world. They put them around the equator. There's pyramids all the way around the equator. Yeah, don't read a book. The best one is in Giza, and that's in the very center of the earth. It's a gigantic light bulb. What you need for this light bulb, well, like, other than a big massive cap of gold and all this other stuff that's been ripped out and torn apart, is a king. Yes. A heater bee. As amongst all the worker bees. Now, usually, it's so simple, isn't it? You just get the king and you put him in the king's chamber in the pyramid. There's a king's chamber in the pyramid. You get the king, you put him inside, and he's solar connected. He's a heater bee. He's a little buzzy. People call him a fire, maybe. He's spreading around. Getting all weird and connected in the jungle. And usually when this happens in the jungle, they all jump around him with sticks and start killing him, or crucify him, or hunt him, defamate him, destroy him, cheat him, rob him, and then he is happens to me, it happened to all. So yeah, how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? You think it'd be pretty easy, but then this matter of humility comes along. It's like, I want to be the heater bee. I want to be the king. I want to be itty bitty living space. And they have a really hard time getting over the fact, the humility of this. So this is why it's so simple to screw in a light bulb. How many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? To admit Jesus Christ is our Lord, or was as our Lord, really, really good Lord, and could be the Lord of the entire world. So you see, you could have pyramids around the world because in most lands there's going to be a heater bee. Most lands, not all lands, most lands. There's going to be a heater bee. America, with their 50 stars on their American flag, if they keep this covenant of his loved ones and protecting his loved ones, boasted to have 50 stars. So 50 is probably really good. Every country about the size of Ireland probably has one, basically, because most states in America are based on Ireland. Are based on Christian denominations of that size because Ireland was really good at making heater bees. Saints and scholars travelled all over the world. Left snail trails behind them everywhere they went. So this is exactly it. Like I said, on fire, leaving a trail behind you. Chariots of fire kind of thing. So America boasted to have 50. These things, I've made other videos, they don't grow when they're in scientific situations. So there's a lot of people in America trying to make heater bees grow. Making the perfect conditions, but they're watching and they're waiting. And when the second they're grown, they're going to jump in and kind of take them and make them a pop star and consume their flesh or do something weird and monkeyish. They don't really know what to do. Monkeys and machinery and light bulbs. Light bulbs are still very beyond us. Um, so yeah, you have this like infinite power source or a lot. It's yeah. Anyway, I'm saying 50. Yeah, but it's 50. It won't grow. They don't grow anyway. God's not stupid. He won't put them grown. So you typically find these if they are going to grow in dodgy neighborhoods under the radar. Um, I know a guy. He might have been a king for all I know, and he had a family. He was just told to go to a nice country and go to the worst housing estate in a nice country. So he came to Ireland and went to a place in Bray. I'm not going to say what it was, and he raised his family there on purpose because they'd be grown up under the radar. They wouldn't take so much interest in the community schools and the or the black communities. You know what I mean? It's why suddenly Black Lives Matter because they've turned on the lights. They found out a few Israelites here and there, and they just went. These kids were practically, disposable technically, and they just went around snuffing them, and because they're worth a king's fortune. You know what I mean? They're worth an absolute king's fortune. There's all these young men disappearing off the streets. Look at myself. And I'm fairly certain when you get down to the last two or three, Peter, Paul, and Mary, they don't die because you need these to survive. So, hi, the reason difference between me and George Floyd or something like this is I didn't die. So there must only be like two or three of us left. Um, yeah, well done, monkeys. So how many monkeys, pardon me, does it take to screw in a light bulb? To admit that somebody is this, and you'd have a great source of potential. So yeah, the Vatican. How many fucking monkeys in gorgeous gowns do they need to remember the Gospels? I was thinking they might gonna love this in the Eurozones. We changed the church. You know the way the banks got rid of all the staff, and they just went on like computers. We get rid of all the priests and all the priests. Get rid of all the Vatican staff, and you just have like a walk-through interactive church. Kind of go around the 12 stations and just reminds you of the gospel story and the importance of the gospel story and the pains that people went through. You could do it all neatly in like 10 minutes. Just kind of, no, not 10 minutes, you could spend about the time of a mass in it and just go through it once a week, once a month, and just go remind yourself the pains and the sufferings and the efforts and the after mayhem, the aftermath, and just go and just interactive, and kids would love it, and just like, I don't want to say, crucifixion. And just a crucifixion. It's a beautiful thing, actually. It's absolutely a beautiful thing that you walk into a church and the first thing kids see is a lacerated, crucified corpse hanging from a wall. And they're not afraid. Like, it's most, I think it's the instant miracle of Christianity, or the instant reassurance. They're trying to get them taken down in Italy. It doesn't scare kids. You see a man with a face of crowns, thorns in his face, bleeding and lacerated, hanging from a stick, and strangely comforting. Strangely, he's like, "Oh, it's okay, I'm fine." You kind of get this layer. Oh, don't worry, I'm fine. Much better off. Most of you guys, you have my sympathies on earth. It's an interesting little miracle in itself that people aren't terrified of the. Cause I saw a Steven Seagal movie once, and I was accidentally as a kid, and I thought it was pretty fucking terrifying. With some similar events or mimicking events. I hate the way that's mimicked. It was a mistake in the first place when people mimic crucifixions. And that old tune. Never gets old. Rings a bell. So yeah, we have lots of Francis has lots of stuff, lots, and they must have really bad memory problems because they only need to remember the story. As long as the story and the Gospels are remembered and globally successful and globally remembered, and globally testified and globally appreciated, all our humility, and we all together, very little effort, plug in the light bulb. Not exactly put Jesus in Egypt because that's a bit gypsy, but we have him properly in the light bulb. He's definitely the light of the world. Yeah, the gypsy stuff is not supposed to be known. You're not supposed to know about the gypsy stuff, the pyramids and all. So you don't need to do that, but you do need to develop this humility that we learned through Christianity. So it's easy for us 2,000 years later. We're not even envious, begrudgerous Irish, like, oh, Mr. Jesus, think you're so deadly, Son of God, and all this. 2,000 years later, and like we're not on the scene, and it's not our friends and not our families. Like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there was some guy in Israel who was awesome. He was rebellious. He was brave. He was legendary. Yeah. But if all the Irish and all around back then, they'd be the absolute pricks. They'd be like skulking him around. They'd be spitting at him just to get mixed up with him. They'd be throwing rocks at him just to get poked at him. They'd be staring at him in trees. Oh, they did that in Zebedee. They did this to Jesus as well, actually. Creeped him around, followed him, bugged with him, messed with him. asked him for his blessing. Oh, you won't use it for anything bad now, will you? He was like, we promise. And he ran away. Stupid. I can't believe he fucking gave us his blessing. Pardon me. Very, very intelligent, very, very brave. Jesus, very, very intelligent. Very, very outside the box, beyond the box. Amazing. So yeah, where am I getting to? How many cardinals does it take to remember to remember a story? So just like the government and all in England are very more concerned about climbing up the bar than they are about serving the people. It seems like the Vatican have a lot of staff to remember one story. And the whole reason that they must remember the story and put roofs over the story is because if we forget about these mistakes we made in the past, Francis, we'll make the same mistakes in the future. I hate like gripping statements, logical. I know the parables of wisdom and saying the things that wisdom take their shape in the fucking proverbs. The proverbs are crap. But I just hate when people use logical syllogisms and they just sound flowery and equalized and balanced. And it's just But anyway, yeah. Because these people know the importance of the situation, this humility that's required. Because if you don't put the king in the king's chamber, if you don't basically appreciate he is a king, or he is the Lord, or a Lord, a potential Lord, he could be your Lord if you treated him well. He could be your devil if you don't treat him well. It could be destroy the world. So you could have a devil over the world, and not an angry person who got cheated, robbed, and is very, 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 very beyond their limit of patience and mercy and understanding. I get criticized heavily for my tiniest little bit of marijuana that I smoked lately, and it's one of the only things that are still keeping me empathetic. And I got a heart full of wax from some medication or whatever it is, and brain dead and no memory. So yeah, my little nephew and a little bit of marijuana is the only thing keeping your world on his last thread. And you're screwing with my little nephew as well. Red, white stripes in the American flag, ironclad, do not harm those loved ones. You're only fucking pushing. Anyway, so yeah, how many of these men does it? Because so they need so many cardinals. It's so important that we remember the story and don't make that mistake ever again. Now you did. I was going to say, how many of you gypsies does it take to remember the story and utilize and see they've forgotten their purpose? That's what I'm saying about the Vatican. Like the British government have forgotten their purpose, and so they let it happen again. We're in year 10.5 now of Holy Perdition, where our Lord got cheated and murdered and robbed. So what I'm saying is, you kept the Gospels alive to not make that mistake again, because it's a big mistake. You have made that mistake again. You don't even realize I'm telling you now. You have made that mistake again. So if you rendered the Gospels and maintaining the Gospels pointless, basically, you've made them redundant. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is you're not needed anymore. All you cardinals and all your immortal roofs and all you crawling up the bar of the Vatican, you're not needed anymore. He's lived through the same mistake again. He's let it happen. It went overlooked. I contacted you. You ignored Jeremiah. You ignored Moses. So yeah, you just don't need to sit around going all day. Because it's going to probably be the end days. You could be out working in the vineyards instead of vainly crawling up the bar and pretending to know and be like lights and pillars of this humility that's so important to everybody. Must understand this humility, and they will be the best agents of humility when these events happen again, because they happened before in the past and they will happen again, and they know this, and they're sitting around and they're expecting it and they're waiting it to happen, so they deal with it eloquently and sophisticatedly, and not like the way they dealt with Jesus Christ. But no, they let it happen again. They didn't deal with it, and they were too concerned about, again, their own internal their own new misfunctions, and like the British government again. So yeah, you may as well be out in the vineyards. But the funny thing is, like, most of you gypsies are so old you can barely lift and praise the Eucharist. So you can't even get out in the vineyards in the last days. So just keep hobbling around, and I don't know. So anyway, how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? Everybody, or just one person, Constantine. Emperor Constantine learned to screw in the light bulb. Emperor Constantine admitted that Jesus Christ was actually a Lord, realized and figured it out, got cheated, and then I was like, hallelujah, in the air. I was like, finally. And then that changed all of Rome, who murdered Jesus. Anyway, it's supposed to have changed anyway. God knows. Well, I don't know anything about the Vatican. I hear horrible things that they're all actually really, 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 really messed up and bad. And spit on Jesus or something. I know the French do that loads. I don't know if they're like spitting on the crucifixion or they're spitting on Jesus or something. I know stuff like that has an effect. I've already explained this before, the essence of sodomy. Lots of things in life have an effect. And it gets you holy attention. And I explained this to quite. It actually looked like Jesus one time. It was absolutely the weirdest thing. And I explained it to him, and he's like, and he took the words right out of my mouth. So very happy with his understanding. Bad attention is any attention is attention. Bad attention is attention. Good attention is attention. So like, I could play a little ukulele song, Lana Del Rey on my harp. It's not exactly top of the list of heavenly priorities on earth. Damien Rosenberg go around holocausting kids and chickens and women all day. Kind of gets put to the top of the judicial list and has to be dealt with because it's the most important stuff. So that's why people do lots of really, really messed up and heinous things in life, is to get to this holy attention. Kind of like LSD gets you like holy attention. And when it goes away, you miss it and you want that attention back. So then you go in an acid binge. These people do this murder. They get some holy attention by murdering in certain ways, and plays an old tune, rings an old bell, and then they get addicted to that attention. And when it goes away, they feel really bad because they're murderers, aren't they? They've lost the holy attention, and now they're even worse out than they were before. Again, kind of like drugs. And then they're going to start doing it loads and loads and loads more, because they're digging themselves deeper, and it's the only way. So it's like an addiction, basically. They dug themselves deeper, and wonderful teachings, wonderful. I'm on disability payment here. I'm on Irish disability payments. We learn to apply yourselves, Ireland. Yeah, I was forced onto it because, and I suppose crazy people are outstanding, and intelligent people are outstanding. So it's just a matter of being generally outstanding in my field. That's why I got shot in my face. I was a genius, outstanding in my field. So yeah, literally round the corners in the field, outstanding in my field. Yep, so you don't need priests anymore, you Vaticans. I don't know if you ever read a gospel. It wouldn't harm you to read a gospel now. It won't do you any good, really, but it would have done you good. So, in the vineyards he is there. So yeah, how many cardinals does it take to screw in a light bulb? You're all now redundant. Yep, and I suppose one of these, how many people does it take? One of these might book me a flight to Egypt. I don't know. I don't think I'll go near Egypt. It seems like a weird, scary place. Full of the gypsy. That's where gypsy comes from, by the way. Irish people call travellers gypsies. Technically, the Israelites were travellers in the beginning. They weren't gypsies. They moved away from Egypt. So travellers are actually Israelites more so than gypsy. Gypsies stay in the cities, stay in the towns, and have all their gypsy stuff. Israelites were travellers. They travelled off into the desert. There was nothing in the desert. And God's like, I prefer you to be travelling off in the desert than in the city with the gypsies. So it's actually pretty backwards. Calling a traveller person a gypsy. The gypsy. Egyptian. Alright, it was only raining now. It would be skateboarding, anything that pleases the Lord. I don't know. You're gorgeous, can't on Francis. Yeah, anyway, you're redundant. And screw me in, baby. Turn me on. Or just turn it off. I love Jim Carrey.